Just a couple of guys, a couple of microphones, and a heck of a lot of know. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
What they say, it's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes.
All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Football on the Know. I am Jim McPhee, and of course, alongside of me is Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, Know-It-Alls? Welcome back for another edition of Football on the Know show. We are ever so getting much closer to the end of the season. So for a lot of us, it's kind of relief. And for some of us, they're like just anxious for the playoffs, see who's going to be in, who's going to be out, and in that race. And we are here to help you guys kind of figure all that out. But before we do, just have, just a little one-on-one time with me and you guys out there. Got to ask you for a favor. Could you really help us out? Just a little bit. It's totally free. You head over to YouTube. You hit that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to hit the thumbs up. And don't forget to share it. Share it with all your family and friends, what have you. And don't forget to comment, because every time we are live, drop down in the comment section, legit, whether you want to just let us know you're here, whether you want to ask a question, whether it be fantasy football advice, whether it be about your team going into next offseason, what to anticipate. We're here for all of that, all throughout the year. So make sure you keep it dialed in, keep it here every single week. We're here for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. And it's funny. It's funny how the just things change with the wind with the NFL, Joe. I mean,
really quickly, huh?
Yeah, it's kind of funny that we do two shows now because they're so different in so many ways. Just because really the difference a day makes, whether it be injury lists with the way the teams are and things like this. And last night on the Blindside Blitz, which you can check out on grumblingsmedia.com and their YouTube page and anywhere you get your podcasts. We were talking about certain quarterbacks starting here, and one was your team with the Raiders, and we talked about the Giants with Daniel Jones. Do they go forward with Dan Jones still?
And the Colts.
And then the Colts. And we had talked about even the upcoming game, even to the picks, and we were like, oh, well, Joe Flacco versus Aaron Rodgers, not very entertaining. And then today, we get different news, and let's take a look at this here.
And he's shown strides. He really has. And with that being said, he will be our starter again. He's going to start this week. He's going to start the rest of the season. All right, and we're going to go from there.
And there you go. Steichen changed his mind all of a sudden. He's like,
wow.
Yeah, because even he was asked before. After the game, and you're like, well, the plan is we're moving forward. Joe's doing a good job. That's going to be our moving forward. That's what we're doing. Yeah. And then now today, he's like, well, as quarterbacks do, they have to grow, and every week, if you put in work, and that's always been the key is to put in work and try hard and practice and get better and improve. And that's what he's been doing. He's been improving. So with that being said, yes, he's going to be the starter now. It's like, what?
Yes, the improvement in practice is amazing.
It's and watching videos.
It's definitely what's going to put him over the top now. Like, hey, we'll see this week.
What difference a couple weeks makes.
What he can do, right?
Yeah.
We're going to see. He's going to be tested by the Jets defense this week. So can't wait to see how that goes.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see. What happens, though, if all of a sudden it goes back to kind of what happened before. I'm sure now he's not going to be out of breath and take himself out of a game anymore. He's going to be like,
he's heard enough.
I know not to do that.
He's definitely heard it from every angle, everybody,
Yeah, like he knows not to do that anymore. But again, it's the turnovers, the other stuff, the gameplay.
Yeah.
So this is one of the mistakes I think a lot of these I like to just call it freshman head coaches because he's a brand new head coach, hasn't really done it before. The mistakes that they make, Joe, kind of going back and forth between quarterbacks and things like that. It's like, hey, I'm going to put this guy in this week. Oh, it's not looking, so I'm going to pull him. I'm going to put this guy in the veteran again. I'm going to change. I'm going to put the other guy back in. I'm like, I like the juggling.
Knee-jerk decisions on everything.
Right.
But like, to be fair to Shane Steichen, it's his sophomore year.
Yeah, that's true.
So let's give him a little credit that he has a little bit of extra experience here at head coach, but it's not showing.
Yes, it's not showing.
When you can't decide to bench a player And then it sounds like by the way he worded it and said last time, where they're like, "Oh, we're going to go forward with Joe Flacco. We're just Richardson's going to take a seat, watch and learn from Joe, and that's who we're going to start for the remainder of the season." He did say that, and now all of a sudden you change your mind and Richardson's been really coming along, so we're going to put him back in. Okay. How does the rest of the team feel about this?
Yeah, right. What is how's the rest of the team feel?
Because
what are they doing?
The temperature in the room has got to be pretty lackluster, pretty cold, I would think, because I believe that a lot of the players were rallying behind Joe because they thought that with Joe at quarterback, it gives them the best chance right now anyways to maybe get back into the race here, maybe get back into the hunt, maybe chip away and see if they possibly could get to the wild card. But now you change all that drastically, and now you're deciding to bring Richardson back in. But mind you, what has Richardson done for you but lose games, not be able to put up points, in order to win the games? Like it's like the offense when he runs it, it's so low scoring. They barely can score a touchdown, maybe two if they're lucky. But it's to the point where like now you make this change, and I don't view this change as I don't think it's the right decision. When you really look at it, it's like, okay, well, the Colts with Joe Flacco, yeah, you can look at the last couple of weeks. Okay, there's some things you can nitpick about Joe and say, well, he didn't play well in this game, and they didn't put up enough points in that game, but look at the other games that Joe was starting at quarterback and put a ton of points on teams. Even won them a couple games. And now you're going from that where you actually had some productivity that you could build off of, and you're bringing Richardson back in because he's the young guy, he's the guy you drafted, because it's almost like he's making up an excuse just to put him back in because, hey, who knows? I don't know what the conversations are being had at the front office. Maybe they brought Shane in, but like, hey, listen, you believe in this guy, right? Yeah. Okay. You drafted him, right? Yeah. Is he hurt? No. Then why isn't he out there? We invested a high pick on him. It's your job to get him playing better and having him on the football field. That could have been a conversation that was had.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden that change of decision-making and thought process that went into all of it, now it's like, okay, well, now I got to make it work.
Right. And that could be part of it. And that's the funny thing, too, is during that press conference, too, he had said, and it is my job to help, get these guys going to do this, to do that. So it's almost like, all right, you failed so far, but now all of a sudden, after a couple of weeks, you're a lot better now, and you've got him where you need to be. It's like, it's kind of funny. So we'll see what happens. Right, so that's definitely going to change, a little bit of perspective of that upcoming game against the Jets.
All the know-it-alls out there, just want to say that, listen, we want to hear from you guys, too. So about what's your guys' take on the Anthony Richardson, Joe Flacco, flip-flop at quarterback situation? Are you guys in favor of playing Richardson, putting him right back in? Did you think that maybe Joe Flacco was the guy that they should have just stuck with, like how they said they were going to? Let us know in the comment section down below.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so Joe, I had learned that today is the birthday of Robert Louis Stevenson, and Robert Louis Stevenson is the author of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the very historic book made into many different movies, and now just like a cliche type of thing here, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So we decided to pay tribute to Mr. Stevenson in this one, and have some fun with the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing. And we talked about teams like that are kind of like this, so we're gonna kind of rifle off a few names here that of some teams that we kind of feel are that type of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type of team, because you never know what you're going to get. Is it Dr. Jekyll there? Or all of a sudden you're looking at it, it's like, whoa, yeah, this is Mr. Hyde, dude. They're crazy, this. And I think one right automatically to me again is the the Atlanta Falcons. Again, I've told you throughout the season here, even last night with picks, I'm like trying to figure it out. What team is coming at me here? Because we've seen Kirk Cousins, put up his best numbers, in a game ever his whole career this year. But then also turnovers, things like that. Can't move the ball, can't get it to his receivers, can't get it, working efficiently. But then also the defense, Raheem Morris there, look really good early on, and then at times look spotty and giving up some chunk plays here. So they're, for me, one of the key Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde teams here.
Yeah, I think that's like one of the best ones to pick too, because they've been up and down and like a roller coaster, and we can't figure out how good are they, or are they just a little? Are they not as good as we think? Like, what the hell is going on in Atlanta? And so far, still haven't been able to figure it out. But even in the meantime, they're still 6-4. So when they should win against teams, they don't. And they surprise you against teams that you didn't think they would even come close. So my team, I think I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers. This is a team that's 6-3, but despite their record, they play so like in a few of the games this year, they've played exceedingly well. You're like, okay, this is the Packer team that we saw at the end of last year. Jordan Love is on track. He's distributing the football to everybody across the field. They got Josh Jacobs. He's able to tote the rock and get you some yardage here and there. Maybe even end it with a touchdown. And then there's other games where we're questioning, did Jordan Love get off the bus?
Yeah.
Like, is he still alive? Is that really him? Is that him playing in? Is it someone else playing in his uniform? Like, what is happening right now? So, and I'm not trying to blame it just on Jordan Love, but the team as a whole reflects that just dip in production, that just not executing.
Right.
And it reflects throughout the team in that game. So it's like negatively. And when you think the Packers are okay, they're getting healthier, right? That was the expectation, is Jordan Love is back after that injury. The team is getting healthier. Romeo Doubs is out of timeout. He with the coaching staff, he's being put back in, and the defense is playing really well this year the whole way through. It's just the offense hasn't. And now it's even though they're 6-3, it's astonishing. They're a winning team, but we're questioning based on matchups. What are we going to get? So Jekyll and Hyde, to me, like, the Packers are one of the perfect teams for that.
Yeah, I could definitely agree with that too. Again, and it's really kind of just on what the play of the quarterback too. I mean, that's key there too, to where Jordan Love, after having a very successful career or season last year, right? Bouncing back, how is he going to play? And then also getting a little banged up too on top of it. Definitely is making the team, kind of sway, blow with the wind in whatever direction they're going. I think another team for me that I'm thinking of has got to be even the Los Angeles Rams. Rams, despite losing their two wide receivers early on, have them back now, and they did lose Puka because of a foul that he had punching an ejection. But still a lot of talent around that team, and with Sean McVay here, they've proven to me before, especially last year, that when I thought they were kind of dead in the water, they can still fight, and they still have a lot of talent there, and they can play. This year, up and down again. I mean, you go to week 2 when they lost to the Cardinals, 41-10, just an absolute blowout.
I didn't see that coming.
Right, nobody did. And that's what I mean. Again, these losses to where 18, 19 points here. I think the most points they put up this year is 30, and it was against the Vikings. So that was like the only good team that they kind of beat. Besides that, again, they've lost to the Lions and things like that. Seattle Seahawks won in overtime, by 6. So a close one. And then last week, again, a miserable 15 points, losing to the Miami Dolphins, who, and again, where I get a team that I thought, they probably could have been able to beat in the Dolphins. So the Rams, another team that's hard for me to gauge. I'm thinking the trajectory is going to go forward, and then they take a step back, and then they go forward, and then they go back. So, I just don't get the Rams either.
Yeah, I understand that. The only thing, like, for me, for the Rams, though, is the amount of time they were without both Puka and Cooper Kupp really led to them faltering and falling below expectations a little bit more than them just how they're playing. Mm-hmm. And not to mention, too, you could also throw into the equation of the fact that they had, a couple of young rookies on the defensive side that were kind of getting their feet wet in the NFL, trying to figure things out as they go. And now things are much different now. Like, I'm curious to see from this point going forward how the Rams react. Mm-hmm. Because now there's no excuses. They have a full-fledged offensive line that's healthy. That's the other thing, too. No alignment. Both their starting guards were out. And then now you have a healthy Puka, a healthy Kupp, a young up-and-coming defense with these two rookie studs, with Brandon Fisk and Jared Verse playing amazing for them. Now going forward, there's no more excuses. Like, this point going forward, like, as a Rams fan, you have to expect wins. A lot more wins and be able to get back into this playoff race, because you're not out of it yet. You still can turn it around and come back. So, but yeah, that's a good one, Jim. Mm-hmm. One I'm going to say is, and we kind of struggle with this week to week with this team.
Yep.
They're 4-6, the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah.
The team that consistently starts every season very, very slowly. Mm-hmm. And they don't seem to wake up at a hibernation until week 4 or something like that. Like, that's kind of how it feels every single year. And again, they face teams that they should have won. They just should have won. You look at week 1 against the Patriots. Mm-hmm. Patriots beat them.
Yeah.
16-10 at September 8th.
A team that's considered a rebuild at this point.
Yeah, a rebuild. And then you're like, okay, well, if the Patriots win, next week they play the Chiefs. Yeah, they should get destroyed. But they didn't. They only lost by 1 point. Yep. It was towards the end of the game. It was like one last play for the Chiefs in order to win that game. So it was tight, and you're like, okay, right? Maybe the Bengals kind of woke up a little bit. Maybe and then you go back. Commanders. Okay, this is a team with a rookie quarterback early in the season. They're they got the training wheels on Jaden Daniels at this point still. Mm-hmm. And in fact, I think it was this game that they took him off. But then the Bengals fall to them 38-33, a shootout basically. And you can see how it's going as you go down through the schedule. Then they beat the Panthers like they're supposed to, lose to the Ravens. They beat the Giants. The Bengals beat the Browns like they're supposed to. The Eagles beat the Bengals. That was a tough matchup for them. So it's like back and forth, just like the team that you brought up. Mm-hmm. So, like, to me, like the Bengals, even they're 4-6, which is crazy. This is a team that, if you looked at the roster before the season, like we did, we evaluated the rosters before we picked our divisional winners and all that. But with just the knowledge of who they have on the roster, you're thinking Joe Burrow's healthy. He's going to be back. What's stopping you now? Like, I understand Joe Mixon, the loss of that is a big deal. But now they got Chase Brown. Chase Brown, they found him. They drafted him in a draft, and he's in his second year playing amazing. Now going forward, you're thinking, oh, you know what? We're back in this thing. We could make a run for the playoffs, no problem. But as a Bengals fan, if you're looking at your record right now at 4-6, you're like, dude, what the hell happened? Mm-hmm. Why with our team coming back minus maybe one or two, critical players, we're still good. Our offensive line's solid. Like, what's happening here?
Right.
Defense was also shaky in the beginning of the year. So this is another team to me, the Cincinnati Bengals, that kind of let a lot of Bengals fans down early on, especially.
Mm-hmm.
And it's looking grim right now. They cannot afford to lose another game, honestly.
Right. Yeah, and especially even within their division here, they've already played the Ravens twice. They lost in overtime in Week 5, and then also just last week by 1 point again because they went for 2 because they didn't want to get to overtime on this one. But again, it was another game where they had the Ravens on the ropes. I mean, they were ready to score at will and couldn't hang on to it.
I mean, that game. That game should have went the Bengals' way.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to get to that in a little bit, too, in our next segment.
Pretty terrible.
Yeah. And that's the thing, though, too. And that's what with some of these teams, that's the difference is the defense sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
When you got the Bengals where it's funny when you look at these two, it's almost like their defense just equals in how bad they are to what the points are for the offense, right? Because when you see their offense, they've been able to put up 38 points like they did against the Ravens, but they lose 38-41. Again, and in a game they lose again, they put up 33 points, but the defense gives up 38. In another game, the offense puts up 25, they lose 26-25. It's like just that little bit, the defense is bending enough that they can't just solidify these. And like I said, the offense is doing okay. They're putting up some points here, but just can't get it. So that's why it gives you that Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type of feel because you're like, is the defense going to show up this time? Is the offense going to be able to put up enough points that the defense, being as weak as it is going to be able to do enough? So it is always scary, especially when it comes down to
at
picks
least there's been a sighting of defense for the Bengals the last 2 weeks. Like,
right.
It started with the Raider matchup, right? Where like they kind of that was like their gimme type of game. You know what I mean? Like, okay, if you're gonna iron any of the wrinkles out, this is the game you do it in. Offensively, defensively, figure things out. And then from that point on, like their defense is playing really well, high level football right now, last couple of weeks. So I'm curious to see what the Bengals can do now going down the stretch. Because you look at the matchup this week against Chargers, that's winnable. The Steelers one is winnable in the division. The Cowboys winnable, obviously. Titans, Browns, Broncos. Broncos will be a challenge. That'll be tough. And then your final game as in Pittsburgh, which could be a very critical game.
Right. And the key, I think, here for the defense, even on their end, is being able to stop the run. That's the real big difference. Because if you look at the first 6 to 7 weeks, I think it is 6 weeks, giving up on the ground 170, 149, over 100 every single time. One week against the Ravens, 175 yards. So consistently giving up yardage on the ground. Last 2 weeks, 60 yards on the ground, and then 99 last week. So being able to stop the run to an extent, a lot better than they had previously.
Right. We have a know-it-all in the house. One of the OG know-it-alls, Mr. Mike, the man Tackett.
All right, what does he have to say?
He says, salutations, fellow know-it-alls.
Salute.
In case you missed it, you got to move this window out of my way.
Oh, sorry.
Here.
Come
on,
you're
slacking.
Take it. I didn't think it was going to take up the whole thing. Wow. Okay.
Maximum Football is out on PC now.
Oh, okay.
And we're releasing a preview on Xbox. Yo, that's dope. Starting December 10th. A fun, free alternative to Madden and College Football 25. Yes, sir.
Yes.
I am excited for this. I can't wait to try this out for sure. Mike, thank you. And for those of you know-it-alls that don't know, Mike Tackett was graced to test the game, to work out some of the kinks in this game that they've been working on for what is it, Mike?
It's been a while.
Has it been a year?
First one though, because he did the first one. There was a Doug Flutie's Maximum Football. Now this one's just Maximum Football, right? So Doug Flutie's not part of it, right? Now it's just Maximum Football.
Yeah, it's just Maximum Football. Rights. Yeah, but no, I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty stoked for this.
And I know the reviews for the first one were up and down because everybody understands too. It's a small studio. You're trying to make this game and you're trying to compete with Madden. So I mean, come on. But that's what a lot of people thought. It was really good for the low budget that they have to kind of get it going. But also you're going to have your bugs here and there and this and that. So if they iron some of those out, why not? Because I think a lot of people are looking for a different alternative.
Yeah, the other really cool thing, too, know-it-alls, is that Mike has given us a little bit of glimpse of insight on this game and everything, basically saying that there is a ton more customization that you can do in Maximum Football, from creating stadiums to players to
that's right,
a laundry list of things that you can do to really kind of make it your own team, your own organization. So I'm pretty excited about it.
December
I love
10th,
that.
Right?
Yeah, December 10th.
Nice.
I'm going to be downloading it for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe
fun.
Jim might not be able to. He might not hear from me because I might be just glued to Maximum Football.
Maybe I'll actually try a football game. Yeah, I haven't played one in a while.
That's because I mean, come on. When's the last time a real good video game, a real good football video game has been out?
Right. Yeah.
Like
I'm done with Madden.
We've been through the Madden phase, and honestly, like, you could argue that the older Madden games are better than the ones today. Like, yeah, okay, the graphics and the advancements, I get all that, but still, like, when it came to bare bones,
right,
that was those were like amazing advancements in video game play.
And I think they took more time before they actually, went to production or or release date.
They did.
Now it's hurry up and get it out. Or
now it's like less than a year. You got to turn around and make a new football game. And Madden, and that's probably the real reason why Madden fails more often than not.
Yeah.
So I can't wait. Maximum Football, guys, it's coming to an Xbox near you, and it's out on PC right now. So make sure if you have PC, download it right now. We know friends of ours that have PC. They love football. They should download this game right now and let us know how it is. But yeah, can't wait. December 10th for Xbox anyway for me and Jimmy. We're going to be downloading that on December 10th. That's going to be awesome.
Sounds good. All right, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde teams in honor of Robert Louis Stevenson. His birthday is today. I think one other team I can actually kind of think of, too, that we were just talking about. I think you can even put the Colts in this situation here with the way they're flipping the script, from just a few days ago between quarterbacks and things like that. And their win-loss record, it literally goes 2 wins or 2 losses, 2 wins, 1 loss, 2 wins, 3 losses. You know what I mean? So back and forth, and the different competition. Sometimes they play up to competition, like they beat the Steelers. Right. And then also they beat the Dolphins, but they were beat up a little bit there. But they've got a rough road though ahead of them though too. So it's going to be tough. But that defense seems like it's coming to play now and step up. And now that they got everybody kind of healthy now too on top of it. So when you try and gauge this team, again, it kind of whatever way the wind blows with the quarterback again. And now that they switched to Richardson, it's even more inconsistent because with Flacco, you kind of know what you're getting and you say, hey, maybe they have a better shot with Flacco. He tries not to commit so many turnovers. He did a bit last week. 4 turnovers last week. But with Richardson, it was either you're super highs or you're super low. So it's tough to gauge with these guys. So I think that one, again, the Colts are kind of on that fringe too, where they're 4-6 right now too. So they still have a chance to kind of make the playoffs here, but then maybe not. So I think they're probably one of those teams too. I can never gauge either.
Yeah, I could see that because that team is so uncertain. They really are.
Right.
Like their defense is good. It took them a while to get DeForest Buckner back, the perennial pro that is D tackle man there, creating a lot of pressure, getting sacks. Now that they have him back in the lineup, that's going to help their defense get it back to where it used to be, but the offense just isn't clicking. Richardson, I don't. If you're trying to save your season, this is not the way. Like, This is just not the way to do it. I thought that Shane Steichen woke up, and that's why he announced Joe Flacco originally was going to start the rest of the year, because it gives them the best chance to kind of make it back in the race. But now, changing your mind, going with Richardson, this is going to be a team that I feel like is just going to be falling down more than climbing up. In every single week, because it's basically Russian roulette with Richardson, what you're going to get from him. He typically does turn the ball over, So it's like some games, if he's able to protect the ball and not turn it over, then maybe they'll be in the game. Maybe they might be winning. But then there's going to be those bonehead moments where, why did he throw it there? Now it's a pick six, or he didn't pay attention. Guy hits his arm, he fumbles. Yep. We'll see how that all, works itself out going into this week, and sounds like for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
But we'll have to keep you posted with Shane Steichen, maybe yet again changing his mind.
Yeah, right. Who knows? Yeah, maybe he sees something different now, in practice or something, and changes his mind though. So,
I got another team now.
Sure. Why not?
So a lot of people might not agree with this one, but the 6-4 Texans, because there are games where you're like, well, they should win hands down, and they barely squeak by. Listen, they lost to the Jets. Okay, that's one of those teams that you're like, oh, they should beat that team. The Texans were, on paper anyway, they were the better team. I understand it's any given Sunday, or in that case, Thursday night. But that was a team that they should have beat. They didn't. They fell to them. And they lost. And even though they've won some of these matchups, they've been close. Mm-hmm. Look at the Colts game, 23-20. Like, they were right in that game. Packers edged them out 24-22. That's understandable. Teams like the Lions, and then there's things like this. Buffalo Bills, they beat. 23-20. They beat the Bills. Okay, cool. Now you're thinking, wow. Like, they're beating a playoff contending team. And I understand, maybe that was pre-Amari Cooper. Like, he wasn't there and they were struggling a little bit on offense. But still, they handled business. And then they lost to the Vikings in dramatic fashion. Mm-hmm. Like, got destroyed. Mm-hmm. The Jaguars, they just barely edged out. Mm-hmm. The Colts, again, they just barely edged out the Colts in both games.
Right.
So it's like, it makes you really I'm trying to figure this out. Like, what kind of a team is this? The team that last year they had less talent, right? Like, let's just say they had Nico Collins, right? They had, Tank Dell. They had a lot of the younger guys, last season. Mm-hmm. And they didn't have Danielle Hunter. They didn't have, they had another guy by the name of Jonathan Greenwood, who was also a really good DN pass rusher. But now you fast forward to this year where they made improvements. Mm-hmm. They got Joe Mixon at running back. Mm-hmm. They got Stephon Diggs. I was thinking initially, I'm like, dude, they're going to run away with this division.
Yeah,
There's
right.
no way. With the coaching with D'Amico Ryans and his coaching staff and how well they executed last season, now they made the team better, and they're coming into this season? Are you kidding me?
Right.
Man, it's been a cataclysmic disappointment season for the Texans, because even though they are 6-4,
right,
it's up and down type of 6-4. This is like, sometimes you think they should run away with it, and they don't. And you can't have this many close games in the regular season going into the playoffs. First of all, they still got to make it there, but going into the playoffs, we're assuming they're going to make it. And if you keep having these games where you're just like, not doing enough, just barely there, you're going to find yourself one and done in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So that to me, this is one of my teams.
I can see that totally. And again, well, what is it? Because a lot of times you see these teams that they add this talent, and you're like, well, now on paper, they're outstanding, mm-hmm. and when they're not doing that, you're kind of like, what is it? Is it chemistry? Is it what? Because even a lot of guys are still there, though. They didn't change a lot. They just added, you know what I mean? So how is that difference, that big of a difference, that it makes it look not worse, but still kind of a little bit not as dominant as you would expect. So maybe it is just working out some of those kinks. But again, maybe it is the teams got this team film on this team from last season, so now maybe they're studying some more, get to see CJ Stroud some more here, and kind of dissect some of it and try and game plan against that better. But I get what you're talking about, because even when you look at the teams in the NFL right now, I really can't see a more dominating team than the Detroit Lions still right now, even though they had that close game last week.
Right.
They pretty much have been dominating.
They overcame 5 interceptions.
Yeah. Right.
That doesn't happen. What was it? The last time that happened was what? It was like, I forgot.
They said like 1970,
like 1970
I think it was, or
something.
like that. Yeah.
Crazy.
Right. And on the AFC side, I don't really see a team like that. And I'd say maybe if I did lean to something, maybe the Baltimore Ravens, the way they've been kind of putting up points still and kind of been, beating, a lot of teams, but I don't see a team stand out to where I'm like, these guys dominate.
Yeah, true. In terms of domination,
right.
But that's the thing, is like after the midway point of the season, we're starting to notice things turn around for some teams. Like even the Buffalo Bills, now that they got Amari Cooper in the ranks there at receiver, that's going to really change that offensive, the offensive prowess of the Bills, because now teams aren't going to just say, okay, we only got to worry about the short intermediate game. No one's going deep. Khalil Shakir is that short guy, the short, target type of wide receiver, possession, if you want to call him that. But then now that with Cooper, you got that deep threat. You got a guy who can play on every single level at receiver and make impact plays. So that, to me, is where the Bills team becomes even more dangerous now. Their defense has been playing better. I still think it needs to be better than what it is right now in order for them to kind of make a deep run. But that's a team where I could see getting better now with Cooper every single week, and that could be, maybe they turn out to be AFC's dominating team going forward. Obviously everyone's going to point, a lot of Chiefs fans are going to point to themselves and say, yeah, but we're undefeated. Yeah, but your undefeated is, let me put it to you this way. The amount of points that the Chiefs have scored so far this season is 219 points. Mm-hmm. The points given up is 160. It sounds like it's a far margin, but it's really not. And that tells me that you've won a lot of close games. And some of them not that convincing. There was definitely games that they played where you're like, the other team deserved to win that game. Mm-hmm. Like they got away with a call, or the Chiefs got a call to kind of. It didn't end up being a score, but now that they called it back, you get another opportunity. Now it's a touchdown. Like it just seems like the Chiefs get so many more extra chances in games to win them, and it just drives NFL fans crazy. Mm-hmm. Because I honestly, I've never seen anything like this. Like, they are 9-0. Okay, good for them. But they've been helped a ton to get to be 9-0. Listen, this is Patrick Mahomes' worst season of his career by a long shot. Like, it is terrible.
Yeah.
It's absolutely horrendous how he's playing. But people keep talking him up. People keep saying he's the man. Listen, he's winning games. We don't really care. Don't show us that touchdown interception ratio. Don't show us that. Don't show us the low amount of passing yards he has up to this point. Don't do that. Look at the win column. We got no losses. So I just think that that's one of those things where, honestly, for an undefeated team, it's the most lackluster undefeated team I've ever seen.
Right. Yeah. I said that on the show, I think last night. I was like, if they get and stay undefeated, history would probably paint this team as the most overrated undefeated team ever. You know what I mean? The most lackluster.
Right.
Most disappointing out of it all, and I think that brings us to our next segment, which we've done a few times in this on this show over the years here, in our 7th, 8th year now, I think now. The rise, the falls, and the BS calls. Let's see we're on it right now in the Chiefs. We might as well go just right at the BS calls, because I think they're super exciting right now, and you could go on forever about them all. So what's funny is the narrative that's been going around about the Chiefs for a while now, because even the fact that they do win, but when they do, you could see the penalties with your own eyes on the video footage. Juwan Taylor going off, false starting almost every single play, getting that early jump, and only get called like half the time. Just kind of make it look fair enough. They're like, false start. And it's like, no, and then now with it all circling amongst it all, and now it's thick. Last week, the hot mic with Patrick Mahomes saying to the referee, hey, let me know when he's close. And then everybody's blowing up about this whole thing.
Come on, man. Like, you can't be like giving the refs pointers on, yo, help me out, bro. Help me out. Listen, you wear red and white stripes, not black and white. You work for us. It's almost to that point where when you you can go back and look at them all. Like, even this year, against key matchups, the Buccaneers game, that was blown. There was a lot of calls blown in that game. They kept giving chances to the Chiefs to win that game, to help them win that game. The game against the Bengals with the Chiefs. I'm sorry, the Bengals won that game, but then they really, really went out of their way to help the Chiefs win that game too. Like, it's almost like every other week we're talking, or not just us, but like across social media, across media outlets, everybody's talking about how the Chiefs pulled off another win, but then there's always those controversial calls in over half of them.
Too. Yeah,
in over half of them. Like, that's the crazy thing to me.
Right.
And it's got to get corrected. And I know it's not going to. Like, we could plead and yell and scream to the NFL, yell at Roger Goodell and say, dude, you got to do something here. You can't let these referees keep bailing out. And I'm not saying they do that every single game with the Chiefs, but it just seems like more times than not, they're always bailing them in critical games, in tougher matchups.
Yep.
They can handle the have-nots. They can handle those teams and just do what they wish. Like the Raiders this year, they're in they should be in no way, shape, or form in the realm of a one-score game. But somehow they were when they faced the Chiefs the first time, 27-20. But then you watch these other matchups and like, oh man, they're putting up a lot of points against the Buccaneers, and then the Buccaneers get ahead, and then there's some terrible calls on the Chiefs' last drive. You look at Juwan Taylor, this dude, that whole game. I watched that game very intently, and I saw so much blatant holding happening with the Chiefs. Not just Juwan Taylor, but a lot of the guys across the front there were bear hugging the D linemen at times and getting away with it, getting away with bloody murder. And then you also look at Juwan Taylor, who lines up still illegally. His helmet is barely touching the waistband of the center. No call. And then he also leaves early before the snap, or right before the snap is about to be snapped. He's leaving and rushing back to get that extra jump on the pass rusher. Still no call.
Yeah.
Like, oh my Lanta.
Yeah.
Can you help me here?
Right.
Referees, wake the hell up. You can't keep doing this, because now it opens Pandora's box to everybody out there that thinks the NFL's rigged. It opens Pandora's box to, oh, well, they might not be fixing games, but they are sure tinkering with games. It looks like they want the Chiefs to make that three-peat. You look at all these close games. Is that going to continue to happen in playoffs? I hope not. But it's trending that way.
Yeah, and it's crazy too, because a lot of people say too, when there's smoke, there's fire, and there's enough things, dots around there, things where you can kind of connect some, or there's enough that causes suspicion. It even comes down to I can't remember her name. I don't want to say it's Sarah or something, but the female referee.
Oh,
is friends or fans of Taylor Swift. They were on a FaceTime chat before the game.
Before the game that she's calling
with her. Yeah, exactly.
with Taylor Swift's boy toy, Travis Kelce's playing in that game.
Playing in the game, and
come on,
like how is that not? If Tom Brady can't be a partial owner of the Raiders and be involved in certain things with the media as he's an announcer as well, as it's it's detrimental to the league or whatever.
Conflict
of interest. How is the referee, communicating with? And not exactly a player there, but partial of the family or so. Taking partial to one side kind of, and right before a game, like you said, even.
I'm sorry, but if you have
and people do get starstruck when they do see fan,
of course, I get it,
pop stars and stuff like that and stuff, and they see
Dude,
them.
I totally get it. Like I saw Troy Aikman outside Yankee Stadium one time when I went to see a game. Mm-hmm. And he was just like walking around the stadium like, yo, that's freaking Troy Aikman.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
But I get it. But the thing is if there's any conflict of interest, you cannot be allowed to ref that game. You just can't be allowed to ref Chief games from now on now. Mm-hmm. Whether it be, and if you're assigned to a crew, now that crew, if you're on that crew, they can't be calling Chiefs games. They just can't.
Yep.
That's something that now the league. Here's the other thing is now it's going to be interesting because now that got blown up, mm-hmm. and obviously that's true. No one's denying it. Mm-hmm. What does the league do now with this situation anyway?
Make sure all the mics are off.
But like my thing is like what they have to do something. They cannot allow this to continue. They can't have her doing other Chief games.
Right.
They can't.
Right.
So if they don't do anything, we talk about Pandora's box.
Right.
That's just going to add a lot more, lighter fluid to the fire.
Right. Right. And like you said, this really started that week too, I think, against the Cincinnati Bengals. We were at a concert and we watched this game.
Yeah, that's right.
and there was a lot of people locked into this game that were there.
All I know is where can you go to see a real good concert and also watch the night game? Like
Empire Live in Albany. Shout out to them. That's where you
shout
can
out
go.
to Empire Live, man. That was awesome. I didn't expect it, honestly.
Yeah.
We got there, we're ready to watch the concert and everything and rock out, and there's a TV right above the bar, like right in front of the bar, but it's facing back towards the bar.
Towards the stage, right?
So as your vision looking towards the stage, the TV's right above you. Mm-hmm. So where we were standing. Mm-hmm. And then so we got to watch both things. We watched the game. We're bullshitting to other.
Well, you had a great soundtrack while you're watching the game.
Right. It was amazing.
You get to listen to great music, because again,
right.
Normally for dudes, especially, you're not even there to watch like the musicians. Like if you're a real musician, sometimes you'll watch how they're playing and things like that. And I get that too. But if you got the music there in the live, music right there, which is always good, for the most part. Right there to you, and you're watching football. It's the best of both worlds right there. So, but again, we saw in that game to where the pass interference was called against the Bengals here, favoring the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. But then when the Chiefs turn around and do it right after, I think it was literally like the week after, they get a no call, and there was people had put the two different plays side by side against each other, and it's pretty much the same thing. That's when it all started here. And there's been multiple terrible calls throughout the season.
Let's go back to week 1. Let's go back to the Baltimore Ravens game, the kickoff game.
Okay.
Like that to me is yet another one because of the close matchup, because of both teams being pretty darn good football teams. And that went right down to the wire. There was calls in that game. And I understand you could make the argument on both sides. There was calls missed. But then when it got down to the nitty-gritty of the game, you just, for some reason, it seemed that every penalty was going against Baltimore. Mm-hmm. And the Chiefs end up pulling out the game, and everyone's going crazy.
Yeah, and we've seen a couple of games, too, to where, and actually, without talking about games that mattered in the end, what's with the focus on illegal formation? All of a sudden this year.
That was like, in the offseason.
Right?
That's
really
been a focus.
On top of that whole thing.
It's been a focus.
100%.
It's
crazy. Like we're seeing flags left and right. It's like there's laundry thrown everywhere.
But they do this every year. Mm-hmm. They pick two things to concentrate on for that upcoming season. and they concentrate the shit on it, out of it. So, like, that's what you're seeing. They're just paying extra special attention to a couple of the rules, and they do this every year. It's not like it's something new that they've just decided to do, but it's just a couple of new rules every single year that they concentrate on. Like, the one year was pass interference, and there was a ton of flags for pass interference. Then that went away, and now they're like, okay, well, now we're going to look at illegal formation, and now we're going to look at illegal man downfield, because that's another concentration that they're looking at. Anytime there's an offensive line when it's not a run play, and they go beyond 2 yards of that line of scrimmage, that's the gray area, where you won't get a penalty if you don't go farther than that. But then there's guys that take the 3 and 4 yards down the field. Here comes the flag, and that's being called an awful lot now.
Yeah.
So there are those special, you could call it special interests of the league every single year that they hammer on, and it's just another one of those things.
Right.
Until next year, when they don't pay attention to these two things and they pay attention to something else.
And that is, like, I think, just kind of minuscule things. I understand the illegal man downfield because the way everybody's doing the RPOs and stuff like that. That is a little bit of a stingent kind of thing, depending on what the decision is here, whether that lineman gets down too quick. But it's almost like with the NBA. The NBA was calling a bunch nonstop before too, and then they were complaining about the stoppage of the game. Like, why we have so many of these? Let's kind of try and do less of this. You know what I mean? It's better for the game, because nobody liked to watch the NBA games because it was just beat. There was every other time there was like a call. It's like, are we gonna play here or what?
Here's my
thing. You're trying to speed up the game, but you're throwing flags nonstop.
It's not that extreme, but the NFL is always concerned with the length of the game. How about you take a page out of the college football's book? They don't waste time, and they review a hell of a lot more plays than the NFL does. But they look at it once, twice. Okay, boom, that's the call. Boom, make the call. Or the officials on the field, they trust each other. So there's no conversation like in the NFL. That you got, like, it's almost like they're having Thanksgiving dinner in the middle of the field. Everyone's talking about different things. Like, what'd you see? What'd you see? Oh, I thought it was this, and I thought it was that. There's none of these elongated conversations to get to a call that is honestly, like, it's minuscule compared to the rest of the game. So in college football, it's like, boom, what was it? Holding on who? 77. Okay, and then they just make the call. Like, there's no banter, there's no discussion. And college football does this way more efficiently as replays. They replay illegal hits, they replay all these things, pass interference, something in the end zone, even like a close play, like a fumble or an incomplete pass. They review them all. It gets there's a sky judge that radios down to the refs, say, hey, we're going to take a look at this. They announce it, they're taking a look at it. They look at it a couple times, maybe 3 times, and then boom, make the call. And it's announced. It's so much more efficient than what the NFL does and their referees. And that's what they need to get to, because you're never going to appease the fans or even come close to if you don't at least give the ability to review certain calls in critical moments. I'm not saying you review every single pass interference call or something like that, but no, when it's really a big play, when it means something, whether it be for a score or for a big first down at the end of the game, something like that is a critical point in the game, you need to review it to get it right, to get it right. So, or at least the opportunity to.
Opportunity to. Yeah, and I get that too. And like you said, what's with the gathering of them together after a simple, like, who threw the flag? What did you see? Oh, okay. So why are we cuddling together and like, all right, now convince us all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then somebody that came from somewhere else is like, no, I didn't see anything at all. So why don't we do it? All right. There's no flag on the play. We're picking it up. It's like, what?
That's the worst one.
Yeah.
The worst one is when there is a flag thrown, and that happened, what was it? Was it one of the primetime games?
I think it even happened last week.
It was this week.
Yeah.
It was this past week. I saw a penalty being thrown, and then there was this big, long pause for some reason. And, then all of a sudden, after they talked, they're like, no flag. No flag on this play. Wait a second. How can there not be a flag when a flag was
thrown?
Listen, not just thrown. It was intentionally thrown for a penalty.
Yeah.
You have to announce. You just have to announce it. What the hell is it? Oh, it's against the team we don't want it to go against. Like that's what it seems like with some of these games. So yeah, I mean it's getting crazy.
Yeah,
for sure.
And again, not only just when you talk about the Chiefs and favoritism here, again, some quarterbacks getting the calls for roughing the passer, others not. Jared Goff getting blasted in the face mask.
Jesus.
And then Joe Burrow in that last game too, before the non-call and defensive holding here in the end zone.
Yeah.
Clearly hit in the face again and face mask too as well. Should have been, roughing the passer, hands to the face, whatever.
Right.
Automatic first down right there, move the chains. And again, then they have another opportunity to get closer and score the game-winning touchdown and maybe move on to the 2-point conversion there. So again, and that happened during the same play too. It happened twice, and also during that 2-point conversion. So not only did you have the defensive holding, but then also the hands to the face, which would have made it a retry again, and they would have moved it up just a little closer. But one thing I will say with that in that call though too, we have seen where they don't call it before too, and even in the Super Bowl to where the defender kind of gets there early, with the Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks, which we know the infamous interception by Russell Wilson, which ended the game. And everybody's saying, "Well, I should have ran the ball." Yep.
Marshawn Lynch, just saying.
No call there, and then the game's over. Here's a no call again. People want to look for a call. I'm like, but what is the rule that? I mean, because anywhere else you get that little bit of a cushion. You're telling me now with that, because you're against the end zone, you still don't get that little bit of a grab to do that?
And that's where the replay needs to happen. It has to happen. You have to be able to distinguish, take the referees right out of it. You have to have a separate guy who just does reviews. And when we call him a sky ref. He's a satellite ref at every game. And he's watching every play. So if a play is really close and maybe it's too difficult to call for the refs, they make a call because they have to. But maybe it's so close, so hard that Sky Judge radios down, "Hey, guys, I'm going to take a look at this a little extra." Okay, we are reviewing the play. Boom. Literally let's just say 10 to 15 seconds. Boom, call made, radio down. Boom, call announced. Done. We move on. Whether it be a catch, whether it be not a catch, whether it be a turnover or not, we continue the game, and it doesn't take up that much time.
Yep.
It's the referees on the field that seem to take all the time up. It's kind of laughable in a way that when you have NFL fans at home that don't get all the angles and camera angles and the slow motion and the zoom in and all that to see a replay, but we can make a judgment call. After watching the replay 2-3 times, and then we're like, okay, yeah, that's a incomplete pass. No way. So I mean, it's awfully funny how you can make a honest opinion after seeing that one way, where they get all these special angles and everything and can slow it down and all that, and it takes them freaking 5 minutes to figure out one play. So yeah. A little ridiculous.
And even with that same call, I gotta say, I can see the defensive holding, but I think Mike Gesicki is he's kind of known as a flopper anyways.
My thing about that call, this is how I view the rule in my own interpretation. If you alter the receiver from catching the ball in any way, whether you twist their body, whether you pull their arm down, if you alter their ability to catch the ball, that means even if I grab
whether
your hip,
they're in the ball's going to them or not.
Right. If I grab your hip and I pull and I twist your body, which makes it a lot more difficult to catch now, that is pass interference. Hands down. When you alter someone's ability to catch the ball while the ball's on its way, of course, that is the epitome of pass interference. If the ball is overthrown, right? Because that's always another thing is the ball overthrown. I don't think you can call pass interference now. If the ball's just airmailed over the 5 yards over the receiver's head, and then they throw flags, because we've seen this happen all the time, and they still throw the flag and they still call pass interference. It's like, dude, what are you calling pass interference for? The ball was thrown way over his head out of bounds. It's not even catchable. I think it has to be catchable, and then it has to come down to whether you alter or not that receiver's ability to catch the ball while it's on its way. That to me is just, it's clean cut, not clean cut, but clean cut. And to me, that just makes the most sense that way. But when you give these gifts, because that's what they are, is some of these quarterbacks airmail it on purpose, by the way. I think there has to be two ways to look at that play.
Yep. One last thing on some of the calls too. Trayvon Walker again called at the end of that game against the Vikings here for trying to punch the ball out. Like you see many different times. And the game is at the end here, so a little bit past the whistle, trying to get that ball out there still to punch it out. And when they're trying to fight for this too, whistles are. It's not like he was, I think, even being overly aggressive to the fact that, he's ready to start a fight or whatever,
Right.
We've seen that a few different times. Flags thrown. He gives the Vikings first down, a couple of kneel downs, it's over. And when he went over and talked to the referee just basically said, yeah, you're being too aggressive when I blew the whistle. So that's why I did it. So when there's some of these calls that is led up to the interpretation of how an action has been taken, in the view of the referee, I think that's where it's a sketchy line too. To like, well, you were a little too aggressive on that one. Like,
that's a judgment call.
People punch the ball out all the time. I was trying to jar it loose as he's running to try and get this ball back because it's the end of the game right now.
Yeah.
You don't need to throw this flag out. If it does, if it's a fumble, it's a fumble. If it's not, the whistle's blown, it's done. Even if I lodged it out afterwards, you already blew a whistle, you'd figure out the whistle's blown, and then it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But now you just basically, again, game-changing, sealed the deal, and then it's over after all that. And your only excuse is, well, you were a little too angry on that one, a little too aggressive. Can't you tone it down a little bit?
No.
Which I think
I can't. And now I'm going to throw punch you.
So there you go. Rise falls. We started out with the bullshit calls. We had to get that all off our chest, I think, too.
That was kind of lodged right there. It's just like fighting its way out.
Yes. And we know it's every single year. We know the referees, it's constant. But again, they always get your juices flowing, especially this year when we got the controversy going around too with the Chiefs and others. It's definitely pronounced here. All right, so let's get to the rise. What about some teams here that you kind of see right now is like on the rise? For me, I'm just going to go with Philadelphia right now. Philadelphia, They kind of hit this spot to where, again, for me, they probably would have been early on. Said my Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type of team. Because, again, win, loss, and then now they've got on a 5-game winning streak. Saquon Barkley is, he put 237 yards up here against the Jags. What I mean? It's crazy what he's doing here. This team has kind of seemed like they kind of hit their niche. They're facing some other teams that are kind of reeling right now, like the Dallas Cowboys. The Jags aren't very good. The Giants weren't very good. So they kind of hit that stride here too. And the rest of their schedule looks pretty favoring though too for me. So I think this team is on the rise now in this division. I think they got a good shot to lock it up here, especially with a win here against the Commanders.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll stay in the division. I mean, I'm going to say the Commanders.
I can see that too.
I have to say, I mean, 7-3. Come on, can we all be honest out there? And nobody ever thought the Commanders with a rookie quarterback, with a team that just got taken over by Dan Quinn, that they were gonna be not only in the division race, but they are one of the better teams in the NFC right now. 7-3, they're gonna be fighting for that division all the way down to the end. So to me, like, the Commanders surprised the hell out of me. Like, I loved Jaden Daniels. He was kind of he was my favorite quarterback coming out of the draft, but usually when a rookie comes in, he might show some flashes, but he's going to make mistakes. Mm-hmm. But we're not seeing the mega amount of mistakes that you normally see in a rookie with Jaden Daniels. He's like, it's almost like he's been in the league 3-4 years already. That's how well he's playing right now. Protecting the ball, getting the football to his playmakers, Terry McLaurin. They got a nice running game behind him with Brian Robinson
yep.
Jr.
Yep.
And then also you have Austin Eckler there coming over in free agency. So like this team, like if they can shore up the defense, if that defense can somehow figure out a way to step their game up, then this Commanders team would be extremely dangerous. Because that's really what's holding them back a little bit, is that the Commanders defense has let up scores at the end of games that kind of change the outcome of it. Like you look at that Steeler game, the Commanders deserve to win that game, and they just gave that score up very easily. So, I to me, the Commanders is definitely another one of those on the rise type of teams.
Yeah, I think so too. Again, because like you said, it's kind of that surprise team. So when you talk about rising and things like that, I mean, this team's just like kind of one of those big surprise teams. Yeah. For me, I guess another team I could probably see on the rise right now is the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, Arizona Cardinals, again, boom, there you go. Again, I swear, we're not going to stay probably in the NFC, all right? But
no, we're just going down the conference here a little bit.
It's going down as we look down again. Yeah. And we spoke about them early on in the season to where there was something. I mean, you just look at this team and there was something. Yeah. First of all, we're week one. When you talk about 34-28, they put up 28 points against the Buffalo Bills defense here. We're like, wow, okay. All right, look at these guys kind of do something here. Yeah. All right, I get it.
Right.
Then they come back against the Rams, and that was the big kablawi. Everyone's like, 41 points against the Rams, 41-10. I'm like, what the heck is this? I'm like, all right, this is just a fluke here. All right, whatever. Again, then they face the Lions or the Commanders, to which, again, we talked about the Commanders. They get shellacked by the Commanders, but the Commanders, one of those up-and-coming teams, and I think that was just the right time, right moment here for them. But beat the 49ers, and that's a big edge for them, again, because when you look at the 49ers in this division, they've kind of been the leader of this whole thing and like the big brother of all these other teams, except for maybe the Rams, but it kind of just in the last couple seasons smacked the crap out of them. Like, here you go, you guys are nothing here. We got this division. Here we are. And for the Cardinals to come in here and come out of there with a victory, I think was big. And it kind of, you saw something there. So they fought hard against the Packers, and then now they've got on a 4-game winning streak. They go into a bye. They've got their in the division Seattle Seahawks up next, and I think the rest of their schedule it favors them for a few of these because again they've shown they've been able to beat the 49ers. They've beaten the Rams before. The Carolina Panthers are getting better, but still, yeah, I think they can probably beat them. Patriots are getting some wins here too, but potentially they can win those ones. So I'm excited to see what's going on here with the Cardinals here, and I think they're on the rise.
Yeah, the Cardinals are definitely on the rise. I mean, they're one of the very few organizations that we knew had to rebuild. We knew that, okay, they got Marvin Harrison Jr., that's all well and good at wide receiver. Kyler Murray came back healthy, and they drafted Trey Benson, their future starter at running back. Obviously, James Conner's still there. So they had a few pieces to work with this year. But to be honest with you, they are just playing complementary football to a high end. Like, it's not just because, they give it their all every single week, but also it's more about like just execution. They are playing defensively and offensively amazing. Like with their young coaching regime that they have in place, it's do or die type of mentality. They're just getting things done and outplaying a lot of teams that normally if you looked at this team before the season like we did, honestly, I didn't think they were going to do much of anything. I thought they were going to be on the very bottom of the division. They're going to maybe have 2, 3, 4 wins at the most, and then they continue to rebuild. But they are surprising the hell out of me. and they are proving to a lot of people out there that, hey, you forgot about us. We can still play. And they are right now leading the division, which is hilarious. So good for them. Hey, know-it-alls out there, if you let us know what you think are some of your risers out there in the comments down below. We will love to hear from you guys. My next team is, you brought them up already, the Buffalo Bills. They are definitely going to be a team on the rise. Now that they've been able to acquire Amari Cooper to add to that receiving core, which was much needed. They needed a number one threat, a playmaking threat, and now they have one in Cooper. The Bills are 8-2 currently, and they are on a 5-game winning streak. They are absolutely blazing through teams, and now, is it this week they play the Chiefs?
Yes.
Is it this week? Yeah. So now it's going to be another test where you won 5 straight games. Can you win a 6th? Can you beat the Kansas City Chiefs, which nobody thinks right now are beatable? Even when they look like trash on the football field offensively, they still figure out a way and win. They still, maybe with a little help, but they still figure out a way to win.
Yeah.
They're still, I mean, I'm not saying they're still a good football team. They're well coached. They got good players. But there are definitely more than a few games where you kind of scratch your head and say, well, how did they pull that off? So, but Bills, to me, now that they've been able to acquire a guy like Amari Cooper to install into that offense, that gives them a nice big jump up to say, well, we can compete with anybody now.
Right, and I think this week is big for them, especially if they get a win.
You think?
Because, yes, they're on a 5-game winning streak, but they beat, Miami Dolphins with Tua back, which is big here, but the Colts, which, like you said, they're a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde team. Seahawks and Titans, I don't think are the best right now, even though Seahawks sitting there at 6-2. It's kind of suspect with them, too. They could have been maybe one of a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde team.
I mean, it's any given Sunday anyway.
Yeah, and then even the Jets right now. But if they beat the Chiefs and then they go in with a win and then go into the bye, they rest up in that bye and prepare for a couple of tough games here because they got the 49ers, the Rams, and the Lions coming right out of that.
That's a tough stretch right there.
Those couple of wins here, and then they can, I think, they got the Patriots twice and then the Jets. So then they can kind of sit on cruise control, I think, after that. But I can see that too, especially with some of they've got injuries, but they've been playing banged up and not exactly like this guy's ruled out injuries. This guys are nicked and banged up, and they're still playing, with some limited practice, but then out there doing it, and that's big for a team like this to grind it out and get some of those victories moving forward too. Especially with that defense here with Sean McDermott and losing some of the key pieces. We talked about them early on in the season to where we're kind of seeing an effect of some of that. Now it seems like they're doing kind of okay, in that aspect. But I think one of the other teams you've wanted to keep on to the AFC. Baltimore Ravens, I think, again, they're one of those risers, too, to where we saw them go 0-2. Everybody's freaking out. What the hell? This team, is too good to be starting out like this. They go on a 5-game winning streak. Yes, they lose to the Browns, but that we said that one might be a weird divisional game here. It's tight, but then they come back with a vengeance. Here and get some 2 key victories here against the Cincinnati Bengals and tough defense in the Denver Broncos. But that team, I think, right now looks like the most dangerous offense. I talked about it earlier on. Going forward, I'm not scared of the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm more worried about the Baltimore Ravens with that number 1 ranked offense in Tom Munkin right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're risers. I think they've already been there. Like they were a team that we saw as one of those competitive playoff caliber type of teams. Also a team that we thought has a good chance of winning that division. So I don't really view the Ravens as risers. I think they are what we thought they were.
Yeah.
Quote of Dennis Green.
Yeah.
But I think a riser that I have in mind, I'm going to go back to the NFC.
Sure.
And I'm going to say the Vikings because this is a team in the offseason that a lot of people downplayed. A lot of people said, well, they don't have a quarterback. Yeah, they drafted J.J. McCarthy, but he's a rookie. We don't know how he's going to pan out. And then they had Sam Darnold, and they're like, oh, that's all they signed? They just signed Sam Darnold? So he'll be the backup, right? You know, JJ is going to be the starter. Nope. Sam Darnold not only won the job, flat out won the job, but also is playing pretty darn good football to help the Vikings win games. And yeah, his stats aren't crazy. He's not throwing over 300 yards on average every week and 3 or 4 touchdowns every week and anything like that. His stats aren't that sexy, but this team came together and they're doing what's needed to win games at 7-2. And they are a team that honestly, I don't think very many people could say that, hey, I thought the Vikings were going to be not only a competitive team, but the Vikings were just kind of written off. You know, now that Kirk Cousins wasn't there and that uncertainty at quarterback. And by the way, like they also brought in Aaron Jones to be the running back there too. Mm-hmm. So the Vikings did what was necessary in the offseason to kind of give themselves a very good shot to not only be competitive, but also they are right there. They are a game behind the Detroit Lions right now. And this is a team that I don't think you should overlook because as they get farther down the season with Sam Darnold, who gets more and more comfortable with this offense, who is learning as they go as well in this offense, because now that he's concentrated so much on Jefferson to get him the ball, got picked off a couple times. Now he's got to reset and be like, all right, well, I can't keep forcing the ball to him. Now let's see if he learns from it and distribute the football to everybody to kind of keep this offense rolling. And honestly, the Vikings defense, they have played above and beyond. So, I mean, this team, to me, is a rising team that once was thought in the offseason of kind of just being forgotten about, like, well, they don't have Kirk Cousins, so what are they really going to do? To now, they're 7-2 right now. They are in the playoff hunt just like everybody else here. And as they play, I could definitely see them getting better and better and better, getting into the playoffs and then being red hot by then.
Yeah, I mean, potentially. I mean, I'm a little skittish on that just because even with Sam Darnold out there, you know, he has been kind of creating a few more turnovers the past couple of seasons. So now maybe is it one of those things that the longer you keep him out there, is he going to revert back to his old self, or is he just kind of get pressured more? I think he also needs to not focus on Justin Jefferson as much. You know, it seems like he kind of dialed it in there. But I could see that too, just because
7-2 though.
I get it. I mean, the first wins, they were hot early. They had a few losses, able to get a couple of close wins, the last couple. But the remainder of the season, I think, kind of favors them though too. So I can get that.
9 games, 7-2. That's pretty good.
No, I get that. But I'm talking about rising, just kind of like you said with the Baltimore Ravens. But I think let's go to falls. I got to say right here, number 1, the Dallas Cowboys. Team that, again, a lot of expectations still around this team. You signed the big deals here with CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, you lock them in. Jerry Jones, we're America's team, yada, yada, yada. Here, let's make another push. And they go, 3-2 early on, and now they're on a 4-game losing streak. Some of that, again, is just due to injuries here, especially with Dak Prescott. Now you got Cooper Rush in. And you did have, it seemed like the key injuries here on defense when you lost Lawrence and Micah Parsons. Big factor on top of that, but it seems like the morale and everything else about this team is just collapsing around them. So I think the kingdom, the regime kind of seems like it's in a downward spiral and a fall right now.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about collapsing. Let's talk about the Saints. Yeah. Let's talk about a team that is really imploding right now with the New Orleans Saints and how the sky is falling for New Orleans, whether it be the injury list just keeps getting more and more. I mean, they've gotten healthier now this past week, but they don't have any weapons left. They both starting weapons, one of which is definitely shut down for the rest of the season in Rashid Shaheed. Mm-hmm. And then Chris Olave is in jeopardy of being done as well for the rest of the year due to concussions. So, I mean, if that actually happens, with this team that it almost looked like they were about to have a fire sale. They traded Marshawn Lattimore away, and I thought they were going to trade more, honestly. I thought they were going to try to move on from Cameron Jordan and his huge contract and try to like move out from some of the other aging veterans and say, hey, let's chalk this up as a loss this season and look towards next offseason, because it is bleak at 3-7 right now. This is a team that one of those teams that everybody thought was going to be on the rise. Everybody thought this team was going to be competitive and in this division because nobody had a stranglehold on it, and it was open. Mm-hmm. And with Derek Carr and a new offensive coordinator and Clint Kubiak, in 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks, it looked like holy crap, this is the Saints team we anticipated. They are going to run through this division. Not many people are going to be able to stop them. And they went from after the first 2 weeks, they went to what kind of offense is being ran in New Orleans? Mm-hmm. What is Clint Kubiak doing? Why is he running so much? They are losing right now. They need to get back in the game by passing. And they ended up stringing losses. So at this point now in the season, you're just past midway of the season. Things are not looking good. I mean, this is a huge, huge disappointment for the Saints fans out there. And they are definitely just falling down to the bottom of the earth here.
Yeah, and it's kind of tough because, again, you see when they do bounce back and get, like a victory last week with, their new intern head coach, Rizzi there. And that's almost like that flashiness they throw in front of you. Like, oh, look here. No, it's nothing. Again, still, it's like this team, again, when you look at them too, just diminished though. Like, again, you look at the injuries, but then you also look at, the pending salary cap issues they've had too, on top of things too, all together as a franchise too.
It doesn't stop there though.
Because no, I know.
Even in this, so the last two off seasons, they've been well over the cap. Guess what? It happens again this upcoming offseason. They're going to be around $60 million over the cap again.
Right.
So by getting rid of Lattimore, that's why I kind of thought, I'm like, oh, the fire sale. They know they're not going to make the playoffs. Just get rid of all the big contracts if he can. Mm-hmm. But they only got rid of one guy. So it's like they have a lot more to do. I don't know what that means for Derek Carr. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Do they just kind of rip the plug out of the wall and say, we're just going to reset. We're starting all over again. New coaching regime, new quarterback, new players, and try to rebuild from scratch. Like, I don't know what that means, because how they've done it before, and I get it. There's a lot of ways to manipulate the cap, a lot of ways to like restructure deals to fit it underneath the cap and all that. But doing it too often, the last two off seasons, and now you have to do it a third. What does that mean? Like, what do you have to do to get back under the cap again? Because you can't keep restructuring Cameron Jordan's contract and other big money dudes. Derek Carr's the next one that's making a lot of money in that team. Like, do you just say, you know what? Shit, we're gonna cut our losses right now. We're just gonna get rid of Derek Carr. We're going to rock with Spencer Rattler next year, build around him, whatever. Like, so this is a team that is at a crossroads in more ways than one.
Right.
And I'm curious to see what tactic they take going into the offseason because of those financial woes.
Right, exactly. Sticking with the NFC again, I'm going to have to bring up the Chicago Bears.
Chicago.
We talked about it a little bit last night in the Blindside Blitz. I think, like Joe said last night, the writing's on the wall. You've already seen now they change offensive coordinators. But
shame.
Again, their offense is one of the worst in the league. On third downs, they're second to last here. On a 3-game losing streak, I think it is even. And their schedule doesn't get any better. So this is some of the games that they should have won, or that they could have won, and they let them go. Arizona, New England. Now coming up, you've got the Packers, Vikings, Lions, 49ers, then the Packers, or then the Vikings, then the Lions. It's like, holy crap! And your only let up after that is the Seahawks, and then back to the Packers again. So, and a couple of those, most of them are all within your division. So it's just your division pounding on you and just making sure you're in the basement. So I think right there, if you lose all those games, which again, I think they potentially could here, Eberflus has got to be out after that too. So I think this team is in a downward spiral on top of it too, and they're looking elsewhere next year.
100%, Jim. And you know what's funny is because we made the predetermining calls on some head coaches' names, saying that they were going to lose their jobs by the end of the year, if not at the end of the year.
Right.
And so far, we're on a streak.
We got a couple.
We got a couple under our belt, and we're waiting to see if the rest of them fall.
Yep.
Another one that already fell that we didn't call was Robert Saleh.
Yeah.
And the Jets, they basically blamed Robert Saleh for the offense, even though he's a defensive coordinator and is a defensive-minded guy.
Yep.
That logic is the same kind of logic that the GM Joe Douglas shares. And this team is looking in mirror form as their decision-making. The Jets are 3-7. They are definitely falling well below expectations at an extremely high rate. Like, this is a team that brought in Aaron freaking Rodgers, had Garrett Wilson in their grasp. You know, they had Breece Hall. They had a very nice nucleus of players. We already know that their defense last season was a top 5 defense. They had all those guys entrenched. The offense was the only problem.
Yep.
So they get Rodgers. They have Garrett Wilson. They even bring in over Mike Williams, and Alan Lazard was there. Cool. Midway point of the season, right before trade deadline, they get another weapon in Devontae Adams. And you're thinking with a revamped offensive line, with all of these weapons at Rodgers' disposal, and that running back, who's a beast, in Breece Hall, there's no question. The Jets have to be winning this division. The Jets have to be competitive. The Jets have to be in the playoffs, right? Well, you'd be wrong. Because even with all those stars and shimmering lights and weapons and feel-good stories, the Jets are absolutely putrid once again at 3-7, and it doesn't look good going forward. Even though it was reported today that Rodgers has stated he does not want to retire. He wants to return and play.
Yep.
So I guess good for Adams and Rodgers that they're going to play together again.
Yep.
But for the rest of the
Maybe
Jets
he's
fans,
going to take Devontae Adams into the cave with him this time.
in the darkness.
Yes, into the
Don't worry, bro.
darkness.
I'll hold your hand. It'll be okay. We will get through this together. But the Jets, man, this is bad, and I think it's going to get worse before it gets better, because now, even though you get towards the end of the season, in the offseason, I'm curious to see what happens after that. Are they going to take the route where they say, Jeff Albright, you've earned the head coaching job. You stay, you keep the same coaching staff, this, that, and the other thing, and we're going to keep rolling? Or do you blow it up? Then now that you fired Robert Saleh, do you want another Robert Saleh-esque guy? Because that's what Jeff Albright is. Or are you just going to go all new? And then Rodgers and Adams, and maybe you can figure it out in the offseason, like who's going to be your coach, and two, who's going to be your play caller? Because that's going to be a big deal, offensive play caller at Rodgers, and this team. So they got a lot of decisions to make, and I'll say this too. We've argued the point of Joe Douglas as the GM 5 years ago deserved to be fired. Just was not making good decisions, and now has made good decisions, but now the team is once again doing terrible under his leadership. So is it time for him to go too? Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like when you look at these falls, it's not even just the way the team is playing even too. It's like when you look at the way the organization is being run too, to where the decisions that they had made, I think now have kind of actively impacted the team in the way it's even turning right now, because you remove that head coach, you put a defensive-minded coach right in the place again, and all you do is swap, coordinators, and you still have the issues. and you even added talent. So how does this happen? You know what I mean? So I can agree with you on that one too. I think some of the games they have left over are winnable, but how much has the losing right now kind of affected everybody's morale? And I know that Devontae Adams was saying and known on the wide receiver show, like, get me the hell up out of here before I kill myself. What he's feeling now that he actually actively asked to be traded to the Jets, and now he's dealing with this.
Right. Holy smokes. We got a know-it-all, a guy who hasn't been here in a while, Mr. Greg Schreiner.
All right. My man, Greg.
He said, do you think Rodgers still has the it factor? Jim, what do you think? Does he have the it factor?
I don't think he has the it factor. I think he has skills, and still he's a excellent quarterback back there and things like that still, but he doesn't have the factor that made him great before.
I think he has the non-factor. That's the factor I think he has. He's showing it more and more every week. Yes, he's an older quarterback. Yes, he has some bumps and bruises, but you can tell for the first time in his career, I feel like it's just blatantly an eyesore of how he's playing.
Right.
Whether it be off kilter, not the chemistry just not quite there with the receivers, or is it more of like just the flat out execution and where he should be throwing the football, but then throws it a different spot? Now, is that just a decision on his part? Like, screw what's supposed to happen. This is happening. You know what I mean? Or is it a lack of practice time with the team? We talked about, we've debated about that, like how much that was going to come into play this year. But being this late in the season now, that can't be it.
Yeah.
And he listen, he wants to play another year, but he might change his mind yet again because you still got this quite a few games left.
Right.
And what happens if he gets so hurt where he's now having to go through another surgery, another rehab, another recovery to come back for next year and do it all over again?
And that's the thing. It's like that kind of ruined Tom Brady kind of ruined it, I think, for some of these quarterbacks here because they think they can still play within their 40s, but to be realistic, he didn't take as many hits as these quarterbacks have. Look at Aaron Rodgers. A lot more. So, I mean, that takes it out of you. Aaron Rodgers right now looks old and
for the first time,
tired,
right?
I mean, everything. I mean, look at this. Every time I see the profile pic when they show him and
you're
put
like,
him up, tied up against the next guy, you're like, oh my God, is this guy's dad? You know what I mean? And then right now, you don't have what made Aaron Rodgers good is getting out of the pocket, making plays with his legs too, as well. That kind of made him better as a quarterback. With the injuries on top of it, being as old as he is, kind of slowed him down a little bit. You know what I mean? He still can escape a little bit, but he doesn't have that it factor. I think everybody's talking about here. What Greg's saying.
Yeah, he would love the if the offensive line could pass protect.
Yes, that's the thing.
Pass protect well enough to where he didn't have to move, because I think that's where he is at this stage in his career, where he doesn't want to have to be the mobile guy, run out of the pocket, create extra time that way. He wants to chill in the pocket, distribute the football, and next play.
Yeah, because you can see he doesn't have a lot of time at all back there at all, and it gets frustrating every time he takes that hit.
Yeah, Greg said, LOL, I just feel his throws are more off than accurate, and it looks... I got to see this.
Yep.
I can't see it. It looks... he puts a dislike on his face, making it seem it's the receiver's fault.
Right.
But he's done that his whole career.
Yeah.
Like, that's just kind of his thing.
It's kind of just like, oh.
Because he knows. Like, he knows football, right?
Yeah.
Like, so, like, he knows, like, oh, man, I threw the out. Why did you stop and do a hitch? Or something of that nature. It could be a minor detail like that. So there is that disgust on his face. And he goes, I agree, no pass protection either. Yeah, and that's the thing is... This team, a lot of people talked about this team in the offseason. A lot of people had very high expectations for it because of the so-called improved offensive line. Hey, we saw it on paper. It was there. They did make an effort to shore that up, but you shored it up with a lot of guys that run block extremely well, but are not known as great pass protectors. And you should have done the reverse. You should have been more worried about pass protecting for Rodgers instead of opening up rushing lanes for Breece Hall.
Right.
Because that's where the difference is right now with this offense. It just can't seem to get it together.
Right, and that's the thing though too is they're 29th in run attempts. Like even they don't even try to run, and I think that's their
behind.
bread and butter. I know, and
They
that's what
gotta
sucks.
throw.
But I think again, I think that's what they should be doing. You just keep trying to establish the run. You have to, because I think that was their strong suit, even though they do have weapons.
The interesting thing is in today's game, it's not about establishing the run first. It's more about establishing that pass and then first, and then the run comes in easily after. And that's kind of like that new modern mentality that is occurring in a lot of different offenses. So you'd like to get the running game going, but not everybody has a Baltimore Ravens offensive line. Not everybody has that capability. So you have to work with what you got, and what you have in Rodgers is still a decent quarterback if he has time. Still good. He can still thread the needle. He can still make those throws, but he needs to be protected. He cannot feel uncertain whether the line has the protection, has the pocket, or not, because that's where a lot of those kind of missed throws are happening too. Mm-hmm. He goes, I'll believe it when I see it in regard to the hype that had in the offseason. No, it was definitely all there. Mm-hmm. I mean, when you looked at that team with the players that they added, with the players, and this is all before Devontae Adams got there. And there was a lot of expectation that the Jets would actually play really well, for one, and two, could compete for the division because of that defense they had. Because now you also have, supposedly, was going to have an offense that could match that defense. And that's not happening. So that's why they're just big time letdown team, and then they're just falling down.
Yeah, now you can even see it's even affecting the defense at some.
They're always on the field.
Right now. Yeah.
So
and then
tired.
before they were like a top 5 defense. Now they're still top 10. But again, you're seeing missing tackles, things like that.
Yeah.
Do you have any other teams here for falls? I mean, there's a couple. I think they're kind of there, but I don't know if it's even kind of we legit can, because again,
just mention one just to mention it as honorable mention. Jim, what do you got?
Cleveland Browns. I mean, they do have a lot of injuries here, but again, consistently
but they didn't
losing.
In week 1.
Right, they did it in week 1, and it's a playoff team from last year
that
is nowhere near making the playoffs this year.
Oh no!
And then on top of the whole Deshaun Watson, debacle. So I think overall, again, when you talk about the falls, I think it's not only this season the way it's kind of gone, but it's also. You can see it's in those teams that have that trajectory going
that were
downwards
supposed to be winning.
To where, yes, they said Kevin Stefanski's job is safe. They gave him the extension. But I don't know. Like I said, it's very dangerous in having Mike Vrabel in the same ball club here, and the players like him. So I don't know. But
it's hard to...
like I said, a playoff team last year, not this year.
It's hard to cure losses because the more losses you pile up as an organization, then there's conversations that are had between players talking about the coach. Like, yo, what do you think about this? Do you think he's right for us? Like, dude, we're on our 10th loss of a game.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think this is a good direction. Like, dude, what are you going to do in free agency? You're due to be a free agent. Are you going to leave? Are you going to, you know what I mean? There's all these conversations that are had behind closed doors, especially when there's turmoil in the organization. And the fact that they were supposed to be a playoff contending team yet again. And they are not even coming close. They are just never going to make it this season. And the fact that they've decided to stick with Jameis Winston yet another week makes me think that they're not trying to win either. So Cleveland Browns, they are definitely in for a long season ahead. Greg says, look for me on NFL Today in Buffalo. I'll be there. He said, I'll be there on Sunday, and I'm going to try to get into that crowd. Nice, Greg.
Yes.
Nice, dude.
Yes.
Definitely keep our eyes open.
Yes,
sure.
Get into the stuff, too, on the in the tailgating, too.
Yeah, I'll try to get a picture on the television screen, see if we can post it up on the show.
Yes, that would be awesome.
This is one of our know-it-alls on the field.
We got to get him a sign one time, too. That would be awesome. Yeah. Hell yeah. What about you, Joe? Again, I brought up the Cleveland Browns. If we had one team to say right here one more time, who would it be?
I'm going to say Seattle.
Seattle?
I'm going to say Seattle Seahawks because this is yet another team that in the offseason, when you looked at their roster and everything, very young defense, well put together. And then you also you brought in new head coach. We talk about freshman head coaches here.
Yes.
Mike McDonald, now taking over, who was the defensive mind of the Ravens, coming over with Seattle with this young defense. I'm like, ooh, this could be a nice matchup here where you got an aggressive play caller on defense with these young guys that can play man-to-man in the secondary, lockdown, all of that. And then you couple that with the offense, with DK Metcalf returning, with Geno Smith, you're hoping is going to take a step up, and Kenneth Walker III, who's just an absolute beast of a running back. You got something to play with here. The only problem that they had early on in the season is injuries to both their tackles. So I expected like maybe they take a few hits early on because of that lack of protection, what have you. But then once they got healthy, I was like, oh, well, they should get right back into this thing. And they've been kind of like, you could even call them a Jekyll and Hyde type of team.
Yeah.
Because they've been up and down since. They're 4-5. They're toying with 500. They still aren't out of the possibility of making the playoffs, but they don't give you a whole lot of confidence to turn it around either.
Right.
Geno Smith, who's been he's not a disappointment, but it's weird because there are some games that he plays and you're like, oh, wow, Geno's really he's cooking today. And then there's other games where you're like, what the hell's he doing? Dude, why would you throw it there? Like, it makes you lose your mind I can only imagine, as a Seahawks fan, where the quarterback is Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah.
The quarterback is, you don't know what you're going to get from him week in and week out. And that's part of the reason why this team is where they're at right now. Is when you look at, I have to look, this is crazy. I just noticed this. The points for this team, the amount of points that they've scored up to this point is 210 points total, right? Points against, 221. So I'll tell you what that says. It doesn't say the defense sucks.
Right.
What it says is the offense is going 3 and out more often than putting points on the board, and their defense is spending too much time on the football field to make up the difference. So unless Geno Smith can play better consistently the rest of the year, this team probably doesn't stand a chance.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, like you said, and if you think about that number too, that also includes a week where they play the Detroit Lions, where the Lions put up 42 points on them one week. So take that game out of there, and again, a lot of them a lot closer. And only losing by fractions here. Again, they lose in overtime last week. They lost in overtime week 1 to the Patriots. And this going forward, too, the schedule doesn't favor them really either right now because red hot Arizona Cardinals twice, the 49ers after their bye week, the Jets, who knows, maybe if the Jets decide to turn it on and get it back here. But you've got the Vikings and the Rams too. So, I mean, some tough teams here going forward that they have to contend with.
I want to just do one real quick one. A team that we didn't touch on as far as the risers go. But the Steelers. The Steelers were not a team that we thought in this division. I definitely didn't think the Steelers were going to be winning the division. Currently they are because of, the one game difference between them and the Ravens. But this was a team that, okay, people were like, all right, well, they got a good defense, right? Okay, granted. Their offense, we didn't know. Us on the show believed wholeheartedly that Russell Wilson was going to be the starter no matter what. And Justin Fields, I feel like they were lucky to win more games than lose them when he was the starter. Insert Russell Wilson now, and that offense has just exploded now. Like that offense, it can attack you deep. intermediate, short, run the ball down your throat. It can do whatever it wants. And they are one of the tougher teams to deal with right now. Very physical, kind of like what their division is made up of. Physical football teams that do a lot of things well. So initially, before the season started, I think I had the Steelers third. I want to say in the division. Or no, maybe I had them last. I think I might have had them last, actually, because of the uncertainty with quarterback, what was going to happen there. And obviously the Browns, I kind of favored them just because they were a former playoff team. But this is a team that now sits atop the division. And I unless you're a Steelers fan, you didn't think this was going to happen.
Right. And like you said, I think the key moment, though, it was even when he went down with the injury here and Justin Fields was in, that they were able to win those first couple here. And then now Russell Wilson back at the starting helm like he was supposed to be.
Right.
Just hits their stride just right now, too. They've got a couple of tough games moving forward, but they've kind of shown that they can go toe-to-toe with some of these other tougher teams, too. Just edge out a win against the red-hot Washington Commanders team, and so on. So, I mean, and the key is with this team, too, is they needed a quarterback to kind of get at least to the middle of the pack. When was the last time they had somebody? It was Ben Roethlisberger, obviously, when they were able to have like a competent quarterback here that could kind of get you top 15 in offense here, but control the run here, but, get to dish it out to your wide receivers and be reliant on that guy. They haven't had it in the last couple of seasons, and they still were, I remind you, winning still, to an extent, too, behind that defense. So
quite a few
the first
seasons.
time in a while, yes, that they finally have complementary football where the defense isn't doing it all for them here. They have a competent quarterback there, and also Najee Harris here, the running game going on. I agree with you too. Yes, they are on the rise, especially with the 4-game winning streak.
All right, Jim, it's week 11. We're going to get to these picks
Let's
now.
do it. Let's do it.
Tomorrow night at 8:15 p.m.
Yep.
This is going to be one hell of a game. Washington Commanders at the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, Philadelphia, again, they're one of our red-hot rise teams, but so are the Commanders. So this is going to be an exciting divisional game. You can flip a coin on this one.
You really could.
But I'm just going to go with, Saquon Barkley and the way the Philadelphia Eagles have been playing with him. Plus, you still got the weapons here in Jalen Hurts. He's got to, eliminate some of the turnovers. And Philly at home. It's tough to bet against them even there, Joe, especially in prime time. So I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously going with the Eagles. I had them last night. I'm going to stick with them. I just like the fact that when you look at their injury report, they don't have anybody injured. That's a huge deal, especially at this point in the season. The Commanders, they sustained a couple losses, and I think this one is going to be a tough one for them to overcome. Not only are you playing in Philly, but also, is it possible the Commanders could bounce back and surprise people and win this game? Sure, because of their offense. But I'm kind of betting on the fact that their defense isn't going to hold up against this Eagles attack. So I'm going Eagles.
Yep. All right, here we go. Now, Sunday, we got the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears. Like we said, Chicago, downward spiral. I don't trust them at home anymore. That defense is still decent, but Green Bay, I'm going to give the tip of the hat to them here. But Jordan Love, again, got to start playing clean here. Hopefully he's completely healthy. I think Malik Willis, when he's thrown in there, though, has done fairly well, though. Again, it's good that when you have a backup quarterback, his job is to kind of just
manage.
Not lose you the game.
Just
right?
manage.
Just don't lose you the game. You know what I mean? Manage the game, get in there. And he's done well, especially with his legs here. So that's been nice for him to insert there. And they're still being able to keep the win streak going with him in there effectively. So I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers here on this one.
Yeah, all you know-it-alls, if you're still tuning in, I want you to put down in the comments who you guys think is going to win each game as well. We got the Eagles in the first game. Second game, we're going to go with the Packers and Bears. I'm going to go with the Packers quite simply. I don't like Chicago Bears. I didn't like them before the season started. I thought that they made a mistake in taking Caleb Williams, and it is definitely showing now. Just imagine if this Bears team, it's not normal to have a team pick number 1 overall and have the roster that they had ready and waiting for whatever quarterback they picked. Imagine if they took Jaden Daniels with the first overall pick right now.
Mm-hmm.
How much farther this Bears team would be.
Yeah.
They'd probably be winning the division.
Yeah.
So give me the Packers in this one. I'm going to go with the fact that the Packers are much healthier coming off a bye week, and that defense is going to be getting after Caleb Williams and the Bears.
All right, next the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Detroit Lions. Jacksonville, we didn't talk about them at all, but again, I think you don't have to really, yeah. And I think Mac Jones, it was nice to see him in there. I think he can, run the offense fairly well. And it's already now to where people are asking questions again, too, about, Doug Peterson. What happens with Trevor Lawrence? Do they get a different guy in there that can kind of help work him through his stuff here and elevate this team, and keep, because they gave him the contract here, so he's there.
Oh, they're locked in.
So
he ain't going
they got to kind of get maybe the right guy in there to help get this thing turned around.
Well, that's the thing. Doug Peterson was that guy.
Yeah, he was supposed to be. Yeah,
Urban Meyer was a train wreck, right? And he got axed.
Yeah.
Doug Peterson came in, and in the beginning, things were looking real good.
Yeah.
With Trevor Lawrence in that offense. So what changed? And to be honest with you, I don't think it's Doug Peterson that changed. I think it's Trevor Lawrence that changed. So, you gave him the money. You're stuck with him now as an organization until you can maybe find a way to get out of it. But most likely, like you're saying, Doug Peterson needs to be axed, bring a fresh, new, offensive-minded guy in, and maybe he could turn Trevor Lawrence around. We'll see.
But in case of this game again, Detroit, they had a close one last week. Come back from that deficit here. But again, playing at home, Jacksonville's not very good. I like the Detroit Lions in this one.
Yeah, to me, this isn't even a conversation. Detroit Lions all the way. They're one of the hottest teams. Jaguars are not one of the hottest teams. So, yeah, Lions.
Here we go. Minnesota Vikings, Tennessee Titans. Will Levis started to play well last game, coming back from injury. But again, this team not very good right now. Defense is better than what the offense is doing. Again, they trade away DeAndre Hopkins and stuff. So obviously they're looking for the future. Minnesota trying to keep this thing rolling and keep Sam Darnold playing efficiently here. I like the Minnesota Vikings.
Yep. Give me the Vikings too. I'm not even going to dance around it. The Titans, they have a good defense. That might keep them in the game for a little bit in the beginning, but Vikings in the end are going to overwhelm them and end up winning the game.
Yep.
Although last week the Vikings did not overwhelm anybody,
right?
Scoring 12 points.
They hung it in there. Yes. The Vegas Raiders and the Miami Dolphins. Raiders again. Now we just heard that they are going to put Gardner Minshew in there.
Doesn't make sense.
Another team to where they're kind of back and forth with quarterbacks, and I know sometimes injuries is part of that, but still, I don't know. Kind of see what you got. I always look at that. See what you got in some of these young guys or whatever. Because Gardner Minshew, he's been on enough teams. He's been in the league long enough. You know what it is.
He's a backup quarterback.
Yeah. So Miami, I think I missed Miami. He's been playing better as Tua's been in there longer now. And I think they're great at home. I think Miami takes this one.
Once again, the Raiders are going to get the Miami Dolphins right. They're going to really help them out. Dolphins got a big win last week. I think this is where they're gonna catapult off this game, destroy the Raiders in amazing fashion, and then going into the rest of their season. Give me the Dolphins.
All right, next we got the Los Angeles Rams and the New England Patriots. Rams kind of let us down last week here.
Sure did.
Patriots surprised us again to an extent. Joe had the Patriots and he changed his mind last minute. And then here we go.
Kicking myself for that one.
Right. So New England, I wouldn't be surprised if they actually put up a fight here too, especially at home. And what they do here with the Rams, how they're kind of up and down. But I feel like the Rams, they're too good to kind of lose 2 in a row here with this team. I think the Rams are upset about losing that game last week too. I think the Rams are going to come back and win against the Patriots.
Yeah, one thing is for sure, the Patriots are not tanking.
Yeah,
they're still trying to win
trying.
games.
Yes,
so there's that. You can look at it as a good thing or a bad thing if you're a Patriots fan. The Rams, on the other hand, they want to get back into this playoff race, and this is kind of where they have to start doing it. They have to win this game going forward. Give me the Rams in this one. They have a fully healthy team. I can't imagine them losing this game. Yeah, we'll just do that.
There you go. Next, the Cleveland Browns and the New Orleans Saints. This one's kind of tough because, again,
it's not.
Well, what's the fool's gold here? I'm like, I don't really want to pick this game.
Doesn't
at all,
matter.
You know?
You just wing it.
Jameis Winston coming back to the Saints. Does he want vengeance here and get a revenge game kind of in a sense?
Of course he does.
New Orleans, again, now they got Derek Carr, though. Look at the difference in back, but MVS has been serviceable enough for him. And you still got Alvin Kamara there, too, and he made the play on the sideline, too, for them. So looking at that at this point here, I'm going to roll with the New Orleans Saints on this one at home.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. You saw a Jekyll and Hyde Jameis Winston the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
A guy who threw for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, still threw 2 picks, but had a pretty good week. Then the following week, 3 interceptions, no touchdowns. Pretty bad. That trend may continue.
Yeah.
But give me the Saints in this one. I like the better quarterback. I like Derek Carr. I think the defense is better, especially now. Like the Browns have sustained some big-time losses on that end, and the Saints, I think, capitalize in this game and get a W.
All right, next we've got the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think this is going to be a tough game here. I think Baltimore will struggle at times with taking care of Pickens, because they've shown in the passing game they're 32nd ranked against the pass. Not very good, so they have shown leaks right there in that defense. But again, Pittsburgh, I think, has been that surprise story like we were just talking about, Joe. So I don't think they have the firepower that Baltimore has here too. And this is the game for the division right now to an extent right here. So I think Baltimore playing its best right now. I'm going to give it to the Baltimore Ravens on this one.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this is going to be an amazing game to watch. Give me the Ravens over the Steelers. It's not that I have more confidence in one over the other. It's just that the Ravens have been playing such good football. And the Steelers have too. Yeah. But, man, the way Lamar Jackson is playing right now, so efficiently, not turning the ball over like he has done in the past, and it is all the credit has to go to Derrick Henry. And that's really the difference in this team. So, in the Ravens defense, like you mentioned, how they are like close to dead last in pass defense, but when it comes to pass rush, they are all over quarterbacks. So I think that Russell Wilson might be comfortable with the past few games that he's had where he's had time and everything. I'm not so sure he's going to have that much time against the Ravens. So give me the Ravens.
All right, here we go. The Atlanta Falcons and the Denver Broncos here. Atlanta, they're the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde team.
Yes.
Up and down.
Yep.
I thought for sure they had it last week against a struggling Saints team. Let me down once again. So coming into this one, Denver at home, that defense is legit. I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos on this one.
Yeah, and watch the Falcons beat them 40-21.
Yeah, right.
Because that's just how the season's going. But yeah, give me the Broncos too at home with one of the best defenses in football. It's going to make it's going to give Kirk Cousins nightmares for sure.
All right, we got the Seattle Seahawks and San Francisco 49ers. Seattle and San Francisco, like I said, kind of big brother, little brother. It's been tighter, back in the day of Richard Sherman. But they've kind of been still, like I said, the little brother to his big brother. San Francisco getting completely healthy now. I don't know if they'll have Drake Greenlaw back this week, but he's coming. They got Christian McCaffrey back last week, which really, really good for them. And I think he's going to get the ball even more this week. So I think that's going to be big for the San Francisco 49ers. I like them at home.
Well, the 49ers are fully healthy. Like, despite the safety, Huafunga, who's out for the year. That's the only unfortunate thing. But the Niners are really healthy now. And it's more like dad to nephew with this one. The Seattle Seahawks.
Take him out behind the shed.
They've been Jekyll and Hyde all season long, like we had in our segment earlier. If you haven't seen it, make sure you go check it out. But the Niners, give me the Niners. They're healthier. This should be a game that they win. I mean, especially them being home. It's not in Seattle. It's kind of like a toss-up with these divisional games. But being home, I think the Niners have it.
All right, next we've got the Kansas City Chiefs, Buffalo Bills. A lot of people are going to like this game here. Hopefully it's close again.
Why wasn't this a primetime game?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know why they didn't flex this one out here for this one. But here we go. That's the game everybody's going to be watching. Game of the week, I would say, too. These two tough teams here in the AFC. Will Kansas City go down this week? I think they will. I think this is the team that can beat them here. The Buffalo Bills, they've been playing really good on all cylinders, and again, they're getting some guys back. I think they can do enough here to beat the Kansas City Chiefs here. And Bass, he's coming off of a high right now, too. I think looking good, hitting some long kicks here.
He's been killing it.
Yeah, so that's big.
I mean, the last 3 weeks, he's had really good productivity as a kicker. Like, he's probably in the top 10 of kickers so far in the league. So good for him because it wasn't looking good.
Yes.
He was struggling. He was missing kicks. The Bills threatened and brought in 2 kickers to work out. And I was like, someone might be losing their job. They gave him a second chance, and now he's cashing in. He's doing his thing. So good for him. Chiefs, Bills. The Chiefs have been kind of like winning games by the skin of their teeth way too often, way too many times, that at some point they got to get a loss. And I feel like this could be it this week against the Buffalo Bills, who now have Amari Cooper, who now have Josh Allen playing very good football. The defense, to me, is the only thing that's a little shaky for me for the Bills. That might, depending on how they play, right, on that side of the ball, that's going to be the kind of determining factor of if they're able to, slow down, stop Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. So that all being said, give me the Bills in this one. I think that if they're going to lose, it has to be this week.
Right, exactly. All right, next we'll go with the Indianapolis Colts and the Jets. This one is again. I really don't care about this game that much here, but what's up?
You don't?
No, I don't. I don't
much?
really.
Okay.
No,
I didn't really care about the Browns and Saints, but
right, yeah, that's
I
true
care
too.
more about the Colts Jets.
Yeah, I guess so. Right, it's like I just look at this game and I'm like, when I thought it was going to be Joe Flacco, now now it's going to be Anthony Richardson. So maybe that adds a little bit of a flair. Like, what are we going to get out of Richardson this week?
I don't
here
know.
Against the Jets. Because when I'm looking at it before, I'm looking at the Jets. I'm like, can they really lose now again? I'm like, so many different times.
But
like, man,
isn't that the crazy thing? Is like when the Jets should have won, they still lost. So it's like, honestly, I have no confidence in either team now. Now that Richardson is now the starter, and the Jets are the Jets right now.
Yeah, and I even said to the Jets, eliminate some of the turnovers or some of the penalties, and they did, and it still didn't matter. They were miscues too many times, things like that. But I think, again, Indianapolis being one of those teams that's up and down for me. Not sure what I'm getting with Richardson here. I'm going to lean towards the Jets here at home.
Yeah, man, I was so confident. I was actually more confident with Flacco as the starting quarterback for the Colts. I thought that they could get a win here against the Jets, but now that they made that change with Richardson, man, has anybody watched Richardson play this season? Like, have you really watched the Colts play with Richardson as their quarterback? Because it is a sight to see. If you want to see a poor quarterback play, that's the one to watch.
Yeah, like a low 38% or 44% completion percentage.
Ugly.
Like, it's bad.
It is ugly for sure. And with that being said, I think I'm going to have to flip my pick from last night, and I'm going to have to go with the Jets on this one.
All right.
Because now I had a little bit of concern about the interior offensive line being banged up, but it seems like they all practiced and limited today. They're on track to play in the game, so let's go.
We'll see.
Jets. Oh, nothing. Okay.
No. Here we go. The Cincinnati Bengals and the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers on a couple of game win streaks here. We got Beast Herbert over there.
Beast.
But I think the Cincinnati Bengals, we talked about it earlier. The defense hasn't been as good, but what they have improved is that run defense, though, too. And I think that plays
got way better
into what the Chargers do and everything. So I think this is going to be key here for the Bengals because, again, they can put up points big here, too. So this is going to be a tough game here, but Cincinnati's been so close in so many games, and they've just gotten robbed a few. I think this is one of those games they're going to edge out here against the Chargers here. I like the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, the Bengals, this is going to be very difficult for the Chargers because they're a team that wants to grind it out, run, chew the clock up, and score. They're going to have to deal with the Bengals' fast passing attack that can rack up points just with the best of them. Joe Flacco seems like he's healthy, good to go. T. Higgins looks like he's on track to make his return.
Yep.
And with that being said, like with Higgins back in the lineup too, this could be a long day for the Chargers. I'm not sure that they're going to have enough gusto on the defensive side of that ball. Joey Bosa is back in the lineup, but Khalil Mack, as of right now, as of today, did not practice with a groin issue. So we have to evaluate as the season or as the week goes. But give me the Bengals in this one. I think they're going to have too much firepower for them. I think they can score quickly, and the Chargers are not their offense anyway is not built for that.
Right. That's the thing. I think if Cincinnati starts to get up big, I think then the Chargers have an issue. Next down, Monday Night Football here. The battle for the Lone Star State, the Houston Texans at the Dallas Cowboys. Like we talked about
it's the Texan
before.
Bowl.
Again, the Dallas Cowboys, on a serious decline. You've got Cooper in there now, Cooper Rush. And again, injuries. Just Dallas doesn't look very good right now. Mike McCarthy's got to be on the hot seat, really hot right now too, and on the chopping block for changes there. So,
most likely he's gone.
Writing's on the wall, so he's gonna be another one of the ones that we had mentioned here. We'll mark them off as we go. Houston looks really good. Again, last week they looked really good and just
Last week.
So good and just just let them off the hook. They had it, you know what I mean? But how about those helmets too? The red helmets are amazing too. I don't know about the jerseys. The jerseys were too dark, like the red with the dark numbers. If they had the brighter numbers, you would have been able to see.
I liked
but
the red.
Yeah,
I liked the red on they had the chrome red helmet. And the red jersey, which I liked. The only thing I didn't like is changing the logo. They changed the logo to just a horn.
A horn and
you used a dark blue, which
Mm-hmm.
just doesn't. There's no contrast, man. Come on.
Right? Yeah, that's what I mean. It made it hard for even the announcers. They said it. It's like I can't even tell the numbers right now.
Who designs these jerseys?
Yeah, that was a bad.
Like I'm
call
sorry.
there.
Like I like the design. Why'd you change the logo first?
Right.
And then second of all, why dark color on dark color? That doesn't make any sense.
Right. Like I would have loved. I'm looking at those helmets. I'm like, I would love for the Giants to do that. Like switch up with a red helmet and then do like blue and white, like the white lettering still with the
white
blue
outline.
Yeah, exactly.
You have blue lettering with white outline.
Yeah, something. Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, look amazing.
That works. See, Jim, I'm also a designer too.
I'm more intrigued about the helmets and jerseys than I am about even this game because I think the Dallas Cowboys are not going to perform very well here with Houston. Houston again, let one off the hook here. I think they don't do it this week here. I like the Houston Texans in this one.
I don't know what the NFL was thinking. I mean, a very simple switch here. Chiefs-Bills for the Texans-Cowboys game makes a lot of sense to me. Make the Chiefs-Bills game Monday Night Football.
Yep.
And I would have kicked out the Bengals for Sunday night. Like, you could have I mean, you could have honestly put in Commanders-Eagles. You got them on Thursday night, so I get it.
Yep.
But there's really no, like, Pittsburgh,
Baltimore?
Ravens, Steelers. You could have put there. That would have been much better.
Yep.
Jim, I think we should do the scheduling for the NFL next year.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's my analysis for this game. Texans win. Cowboys don't.
There you go. That's it. And again, here right now, I didn't show the picks competition, but there it is right now. It's within 2 games.
It should have been within one, but I screwed up and changed my pick.
Yeah, it was scary. Yeah. I was like, look at some of these games too. And I'm like, oh man, look at this. And then wow.
Dude, I can't believe honestly, I can't believe the Patriots. It wasn't even close.
And then even Washington, Pittsburgh, they went down to the line too. And I'm like, oh, Joe's gonna get a couple here.
It wasn't even close. Like 19-3 was the final.
Yeah. 19-3 was
Drake
the final.
May. Just showing him up.
Right.
Showing his collegiate counterpart.
Just kick me while I'm down, just like that.
That's right.
All right, so there you go, Joe. That's it for tonight. Hope
sir.
you guys enjoyed the show. Again, make sure you guys like the video, comment in the comment section too. Joe?
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. We got some of the know-it-alls in the comment section. We addressed some issues or some questions that they had. We want you guys to be a part of this thing. You know, this little community of ours. Head over to YouTube for us if you could. It really does help out a lot. Help us a lot. It helps us out a lot. And make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, turn it on to all notifications so then you guys know when we go live. Make sure you hit the thumbs up, share it, because sharing is caring. It's that simple.
That's right.
Comment down in the section below. We love to respond to you guys. We love the feedback. We love the interaction. That's what this show is based on. We'll see you guys next week.
Join us next week from 8 till 10 Wednesday night for more Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.